Welcome to another Polyphony Digital or PD Logic, where PD does some things that just PD makes sense. They just plain don't make sense, folks. As you all read from the title, this will be the last one of these for a while. Because honestly, at this point, everything that could be complained about the game has been complained in some way, shape, and form. So at this point, ultimately, the only thing PD is truly doing that just plain doesn't make sense is the game in general. There's a lot of small things to nitpick and all that, but honestly, all in all, how much of this would truly even be here if this was GT7? It's been asked probably by everyone of why GT Sport, but has truly anyone been brave enough to say why not GT7? We already know the reasons for GT Sport, to burn it to the ground, have a new thing, have it be as realistic as possible, blah blah blah. But why not GT7? GT6, people had their complaints and all that, but at least we knew what was going to be there. With GT Sport, I mean, obviously we know what's here now, but really, is that what we expected? Is that what we wanted as GT fans? The sales say maybe, but the sales probably would have said maybe with GT7 as well. So honestly, this just raises the ultimate logic of, is it logical that there isn't a GT7? Honestly, I don't have a true answer for that, and I really don't think anyone does. I guess the best thing to do now is just look at the facts, and the facts are, the sales are good. They're number one in Japan, they're number one in Europe. I would assume they're up there in America too. But let's look at other facts too. They have been in previous GT games as well, so that doesn't really make a huge difference. And then let's just look at the fan support too and all that, the overall consensus of how good the game is. That is where it's kind of sort of lacking. It's been in the low 8s and high 7s on average. Back in the good old days, GT Sports got mid to high 9s. Back in the recent days, they got mid to high 8s, GT6. GT Sports, yeah, not so much. Of course, it's impossible to say what GT7 would have been. But honestly, just think to yourself right now, do you really and truly think if GT7 would have been made that it would have got a higher rating? I'm sure most of y'all watching are thinking yes. So even though the sales are good, even though what this game does, it does well, I think honestly it's still pretty cotton picking illogical that this ain't GT7 right now. I ain't necessarily saying GT Sports should have never been made. I'm just saying that GT7 should have always been in the plan. For all we know, as of now, it isn't at all, because it hasn't been announced that it is. In my opinion, if they were going to do GT Sport from the start, they should have always had GT7 in the plan for the future. They should have just said the next we're doing is Sport, but we will do 7. Because at this point, I'm sure a lot of GT fans are just feeling like that there's really no logic for this game. I'm kind of on the fence, because updates, free DLC and all that, let's see what's to come, but honestly, this probably makes a lot of people honestly lost and losing faith, if not completely, in PD. It's not necessarily a good thing or bad thing yet, because maybe faith can be regained, but would people have lost any faith at all if GT7 was made or at least announced? Well, that's for y'all to make your own decisions on, but I honestly would say probably not. So, to sum it up, I could continue PD logic for probably ever nitpicking small things, but honestly, all of these small things kind of go into correlation with GT Sport. A lot of these wouldn't even be here, most likely than not, if this was GT7. Granted, GT7 would have its own things, but probably not very many of them would correlate with GT Sport. There probably wouldn't be too many that would be the same for both games if they both existed somehow or another. So, I guess to sum it up, what we have now is something completely different. And something completely different is a good thing for what it does, but for what it doesn't do, I think some people just want the good old same stuff back, honestly. And I think that's a pretty logical opinion. There's nothing wrong with what we used to have. So, should we have it back? Well, y'all can make your own logical opinions on that. Yeehaw.